What's up, guys? It's Chris Brown from Train Boston coming at you with another wellness moment. Today, I want to talk to you guys about creating goals and how to hold ourselves accountable. In the past few episodes, we talked about a lot of things that are pertinent to this. In episode 3, we talked about creating a routine where I shared with you what I do for myself and for my family while I'm at home. In episode 5, we talked about behaviors, the good and the bad ones, and how they make up who we are and why changing them can be very difficult. What we want to take here is figure out how to use this stuff and turn it into something very actionable. I think it's very important to not just learn things, but learn how to apply them in the real world. So first, we have to define the difference between what we want to change versus what we need to change. Want and need are highly related, but they are not the same thing at all. Sometimes we get those two kind of mixed up or allow them to become muddled in our minds. So want is an emotionally driven thing. Usually, you can think of cravings for food. You want pizza, you want ice cream. You probably don't need them to survive, right? They can be mercurial. They can change on a whim based on what you're seeing, smelling, hearing, or people you're around. Need is usually something very physical. You got to think of essential things. Right now, essential workers is a big term. But it's things that you can't get by without. So essential, you might hear in the nutrition world, in vitamins and minerals, essential fatty acids, things like that. You need to get them from outside food sources. You can't just create them on your own. So they're essential. Needs are very physical, and you will die or perish without them. Right? So we want to create a list of things that we need to happen and things that we want to happen. Oftentimes, those two things, they intersect. They can be the same thing or going for the same purpose. The goals can kind of come together. A lot of the times they're related and they're running in parallel. Sometimes they don't and they directly conflict. Sometimes you want to be super shredded lean, but you feel terrible when you do that. And other times you want to be, fit into a wedding dress, but maybe you're too skinny already and you really shouldn't have that goal. That may be a bad example, but there are a lot of things I'm sure you guys can pick up on your own. So again, we want to create that list. All right, some of these things need to happen in the long term, but not immediately, and some things we need to take care of right away. And again, sometimes want and need will intersect. For instance, let's give a few examples here. If I want to be skinnier, probably a lot of people want to be skinnier. They want to look sexier, more attractive. They don't have to do it right away, or they don't have to do it at all. It's just something they want. Usually that's because they just want to feel more attractive. They want others to think they are more attractive. Someone might also say, hey, I need to be skinnier. I want to be skinnier because I need to also lower my cholesterol and body fat so I don't die of a heart attack. Maybe there's people out there 300 plus pounds. Their doctors told them, hey, if you don't lose weight, you will die. You will maybe get diabetes. You maybe get atherosclerosis or heart disease, something like that. So that person wanting to get skinnier probably also needs to get skinnier, needs to get leaner, needs to lower their cholesterol overall. Right? So that's where they intersect, right? So sometimes those mediocre wants and needs can lead to something you actually need. All right. So something you might have heard of in the business world or just in school in general is a SMART goal. SMART. Many of you guys probably even remember what that stands for. We're going to take that and we're going to really break it down and then relate it to the fitness and nutrition and wellness world. So if you don't remember what they stand for, S stands for specific, M stands for measurable, A stands for achievable, R stands for realistic, and T stands for timely. Now I add two others that I think are really important to the T. You probably won't see them online because that's just what I do. I like to add these two things to it. So it's SMART with three T's, right? So timely is important, but then we got tell. Last time I talked about an emotional spotter. You need to tell people who you care about your goals. Okay, so maybe it's your trainer, maybe it's your coach, your doctor, wife or husband, spouse, etc. And then track. Tracking is really important. You need to write things down and to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable. Again, that's one of the topics or main topics I want to talk about today. So let's break those down one at a time here. All right. So specific. Your goal needs to be specific. What does that mean? you want to delve into the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. Okay, you might hear that a lot. I heard that a lot when I was learning English and telling a good story. It's very important in a lot of things. So, who is involved in the goal? Well, it could be you, but it could be a lot of other people around you too. If you're trying to eat well at your house with your family, everyone in your house is involved in your goal. The person you told, the trainer, they're involved, part of your goal. What do I want to accomplish? That's probably the most obvious thing, right? You have to be specific with what you want to accomplish, not vague. Oftentimes we'll hear goals, I want to be healthier, I want to feel better. You need to kind of narrow that down, right? Where is this goal going to be achieved? Well, getting leaner, oftentimes it's in your house, but it's also in the gym. It can be in many different places when you're traveling, and it could be in your plane, in your car. So try to think about it for a while. When tends to be timely. We can probably pare that down to the bottom of the list, but you could say, I need to do this right away. I need to start immediately, or maybe I want to start in a week when I'm in a better place. But either way, you have to define that. And then why? Why is super important. Why are you doing this? A lot of times when people think about why they're doing something, they realize they don't need to be doing something, or maybe the goal needs to be better. So I like to spend a lot of time on that first part of specificity to make sure things are where they want to be before you get into the rest of it. All right. Next part is measurable. This is extremely important. If you can't measure something, you have no way of knowing whether you're doing better or worse or being stagnant, right? So as trainers, we write down weights, we write down tempo, we write down resistance, settings and machines. It's pretty easy to quantify how well we're doing. Same thing with nutrition. People will write down grams. They'll weigh their food sometimes. We'll measure our waist and our hips and our necks. We'll use calipers for skinfold tests. We'll stand on a scale. There's a lot of different ways you can measure. If there's something that's a lot less tangible, you got to find a way to measure it. And in the case of behaviors like drinking, 80 ounces of water a day, or taking my fish oils 2 grams a day, those kind of things you can measure through just writing them down. Good behaviors. Not having alcohol 3 days of the week. Again, you can write that down. So it is measurable. It's just not as obvious to some people. And you got to figure out how to make your goal measurable. Okay, so again, it's how much or how many of something, or how many times I don't do something during my day or my week. How do I know if I reached my goal? Is there a number attached to it, or amount of days, or end result like a body fat percentage? And what is my indicator of progress? Excuse me. Again, inches, pounds, days I've accomplished it, things like that. Next, we want to make sure that our goal is actually achievable. Have other people done this? Is it somebody on your level? Are they doing the same thing currently? Have they done it in the past? Have you done this in the past? Just because you've done a goal doesn't mean it's not worth doing again. We always slip once in a while. Sometimes our goals change and we don't want something, and then we come back later and we want it again. So is it doable? Is it doable to you? And is it doable with the current resources that you have at hand? Right now, many of us don't have a full gym in our house, most of us probably. So saying I want to bench press 500 pounds, probably not the most attainable thing for you. If you've never stepped foot in a gym at all, saying you want to lose 10% body fat in a short period of time, not very attainable for you. And there's plenty of other examples, but you got to make sure that it's something reasonable, something that someone's done before. And if you don't have the resources to attain it, how do I get those resources? Can I get those resources? Can I get a gym membership? We're not going to be stuck in our houses forever, so plan for that later. It could be any number of things. If I want to become a photographer and I want to get better at my craft, maybe I need a better camera. Can I get it? Can I afford it? If I can't, how am I going to get to the point where I can, saving money? So this can go in any direction you want. Then we get to realistic. All right. Is it realistic? Realistic and achievable are pretty similar. But is the goal realistic and within reach? And is it reachable given the time that you put down? Did you say, hey, I want to bench press 500 pounds in in a month and I'm bench pressing 300 pounds right now. That's really not realistic. Or I want to go to the moon and become an astronaut, but you've never passed a physics class in your life. That's not realistic either. So there's many things like that. I'm sure you can think of a bunch that you could use. And are you able to commit to it? So a lot of times when I talk to people on our first session, what we'll realize is that what they initially thought they wanted wasn't something that they were willing to commit to yet. And it wasn't something that they thought was worth the effort they had to put in or the resources they had to put in. So if I told you, you need to buy this $3,000 DSLR camera to be the photographer you want to be, and you just do not have those funds, that's probably not realistic for you. Maybe you need to go back to square one and figure out why your goal can't be achieved or how we can make it more achievable or something that will make you happy. All right. And then the last thing, we're going to get to our 3 T's. Okay. So timely. If your boss doesn't give you time constraints on a project, you're either not going to get it done ever, or you are going to get it done really, really late. All right. And that's just one example. Some people are self-motivated, but most people are going to have a really hard time doing it, especially when they don't think it really has to be done immediately. So put a time constraint on it. Again, with the earlier parts, make sure it's reasonable, it's realistic and attainable. But you got to estimate. You got to put some time down. You got to hold yourself accountable again. Next, tell people you care about. Don't tell people that you don't care about. If you tell your neighbor who you hate, you're never going to care whether you got it done or not. If you put it out there and tell your trainer, your best friend, your wife, your husband, doctor, anybody who is a big part of your life or who you think opinion matters, that's a good thing. They'll check in with you, especially if you ask, and then they'll see whether you're doing well or failing, and hopefully they'll try to help you out along the way, or at least push you in the right direction. And then the last part of T is tracking things. So this kind of goes with measurable here. But if something is measurable, but you're not actually writing it down, then you're never going to know where you are. You're just guessing. You're just picking things out of the air randomly and saying, I think I'm doing better, but you don't know for sure. And a lot of times people will say, hey, I'm fatter today, or I didn't do as well today. And I'll tell them, hey, let's look at your numbers. Let's try to figure this out. Are you actually? No. And a lot of times they're doing better than they think. And sometimes they aren't. Sometimes they actually aren't. And then we have to look at, why is that? Did you miss a few workouts last week? Is there an injury? Maybe you weren't feeling well, didn't get enough sleep. But we always want to figure this out. We need to look back to those numbers. And if we don't have those numbers, we can't figure it out. Okay. So now that we've figured out SMART, again, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and then the 3 T's, time, tell, and track. Once you've gone through all those with your goal, you need to figure out what you want to take and do with that. So let's run through an example here. So I have 2 examples that I want to run through, and I'm going to spitball with you guys. One of them is going to be about the obvious, the fitness nutrition component, and one of them will be about my family kind of goal. I'm just going to make them up on the spot and show you how the process works. So for the fitness wellness, I'm going to say I want to be skinnier. And we kind of went over this already as I talk, so we'll be brief. Okay, so I want to be skinnier. That's vague, and I'm doing that on purpose. So I already know how this works, but I'm doing that on purpose. So who is involved in this goal? Well, I'm involved in the goal, obviously. Probably people who live in my house are also involved, because I need to have food in my house. I need to have food in my job, maybe, and I need to have things around me at all times. So probably at least myself, my family, and maybe people at my work, and that's the very least of who's involved. What do I want to accomplish? Leaner. I probably want to be leaner. I don't just want to be lighter. So you got to take that into consideration. That means you need to figure out where you're starting from. Okay. Where? So it's at your house, it's at your job, and if you travel a lot, it could be in your car or your plane. Again, when? I probably want to be leaner now, right? We're going to say as soon as possible. I want to start as soon as possible, and I'll create the timeliness at the last part of this SMART goal. And why? Personally, I want to look better, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be coming from a health standpoint. Okay. It's a want goal, and that can be okay. All right. Measurable. Yes, it is measurable. I'm going to measure my weight, and I'm going to measure my waist and my hips with a circumferential measuring tape, Taylor's tape. Okay. How do I know if I reach my goal? Well, I have to create that endpoint. So let's say, for instance, I'm at 10% body fat, or I'm at 34 inches of waist. All right. Let's say I want to get down to either 7% body fat, or I want to get down to 31 inches at my waist. Very measurable. I can tell if I reach my goal. What is my indicator of progress? Inches, body fat percentage. Simple. Is it achievable? Yeah, I've done it in the past. A lot of other people have done that in the past. Pretty simple, okay? All right, and achievable. Yep. I do have the resources. I can eat food and I can not eat food. I have Tupperware. I have measuring tools, cups, spoons. I have basically everything. I have scales to weigh my food if I really wanted that. I have a refrigerator. I have a freezer. At my job, I have the same thing. So definitely have the tools. Definitely achievable. And I have been successful in the past. Realistic. Yep, I can do that. Maybe I didn't create enough time to do it. But I do know that it's going to take a little while. So I'm going to give myself 3 months to do it. That's probably too much time, but it's better to undershoot and see success. Because success is that carrot on the stick. And if you don't see it, you're going to stop doing it. All right. My goal is reachable given the time and resources. And I know that I'm able to commit to it right now. I have lots of time to do that. And then I'm going to tell my wife. I'm going to tell my kids. They may not care. Right now, I don't have too many people to tell, but I can tell you guys. And I can tell my coworkers as well. Maybe it's over Zoom, but that's okay. All right. And they can also be my emotional spotter. I'm probably going to pick my wife or people that are right next to me to be my emotional spotter. But they can also support me and give me motivation. Or maybe they're going to jab me and say, you're looking a little fat. Maybe that will motivate me. But I got to make sure that it motivates me. And then I will track it by writing it down. I can take a picture of myself. I can post that picture every 2 days or so. And I can write down my waist and hip measurements. I can write down my weight. I could do caliper measurements. Or if I had a really fancy bod pod or DEXA scanner, I could write those body fat percentages down as well. Most people don't have that though. Again, that's probably not realistic. All right. So let's go through the last example I said with my family. I want to teach my son while he's not going to school. My son is a 4-year-old, so it's not like I'm teaching him calculus. So specific, my son and him are involved. All right. I want to accomplish well. I want to teach him about science, nature, that kind of stuff. I want to teach him a little bit of math. I want to teach him a little bit of English, reading and writing. Okay. And this is to be attained and it's to be done in our house. All right. When? Right now. I'm starting right now. And why? Because my son needs to learn and he doesn't have a regular schooling right now. And I don't want him to fall behind. Measurable. Well, that's the hard part. So I have to create a list of what I want him to learn. So measurable, I want him to be able to go through the entire alphabet, to say it, to write it in small, uppercase and lowercase. And the same thing for numbers 1 through 20. I want him to be able to identify all the shapes and colors, basic ones. And I would love for him to know a little bit about nature more. I'm going to say let's have him know all the 8 or 9 planets, depending on whether you count Pluto. Okay? And then that is measurable. I can check off by testing him. And I'm not going to go into how I would test him, but you can just give him little quizzes here and there and see what he knows. One of my quizzes is having him write and say out his name letter by letter. So that's pretty easy. Achievable? Yeah, totally achievable. Other kids have done it before. Other parents have done this before. And we do have the resources. I got pencils and paper, and I got the internet where I can show them videos of the planets and that kind of stuff. Realistic? Yeah, pretty realistic. So far it's working. I'm doing a good job so far, and I am tracking it. And I don't really need that much resources to do it. And then time, I'm telling my wife, I'm telling my daughter, I'm telling you guys. So that's pretty easy. And they're also my emotional spotters. And I am tracking it by writing it down every week. I write down what we accomplished by checking it off on a box. I'll show you guys a little list of a behavioral goal you guys can check off daily or weekly. And you guys can use that to track your own progress for your own SMART goal. Okay, so now that you guys understand how SMART goals work, you can go off and do it on your own. please share with us any kind of goal that you want, or if you have any questions or need some help, let me know, and I'll do my best to guide you along the way in the comment section. So again, like and subscribe if you're enjoying these videos, and follow the links below if you want to see more of our stuff. Thank you very much.